Right now, crews are battling a new wildfire burning in Los Angeles County. These are live pictures of the Hughes fire that we were showing you earlier in the hour. It's burning in Los Angeles County, north of Santa Clarita, and has already burned more than 5,000 acres since it started earlier today. It comes as the two largest and most destructive wildfires in the Los Angeles area also continue to burn, but they're largely contained. California officials have promised a quick rebuild from what could be the most expensive natural disaster in U.S. history. But questions still remain about how fast that process will be, who will pay for it, and where the thousands of residents who lost everything in the fires are supposed to go. And joining me now is Los Angeles County Supervisor Kathryn Barger. And Ms. Barger, here in D.C., people have been kind of tuned out a little bit, I think, on what's been going on in Los Angeles, watching the inauguration in the first few days of the Trump administration. First off, just tell us what's the latest and how are people doing out there?
Well, the latest is, the good news is that it looks like we've got full containment on the Eaton fire and also the Palisades. They've made really strong movement. The bad news is the devastation that's left is thousands, tens of thousands. Over 10,000 homes have been lost and an entire community has been annihilated. And so for us, getting the fires out is one part, but now we have to begin the rebuilding.
Well, and as we get to part two, the rebuilding part, do you have any sense yet of how much assistance you'll think you will need from the federal government to start that rebuilding?
Well, obviously, on the front with FEMA, we are looking for assistance as it relates to the fighting of the fire and then cleaning of the debris. We've got the Army Corps of Engineers out here doing an assessment, and they're going to get ready to do debris removal. Obviously, looking at how we rebuild a community is going to take both local, state, and federal partners to make it happen. And we're putting that piece together as it relates to what the needs are. But make no mistake, this is about a community that really wants to rebuild and is committed to a community. Altadena is part of the County of Los Angeles, unincorporated. So it really is under the jurisdiction of the county. And I've made it my priority to work with each and every resident to make sure they have every opportunity to rebuild and rebuild in a way that's safe for the area, because we know it's a high fire area. But at the same time, it provides a family, a home to live in for the rest of their lives.
As I'm sure you might imagine, federal officials have a lot of thoughts about this. I want to play for you what House Speaker Mike Johnson said this morning about federal assistance for the people affected in California.
They did not manage the forest as they were supposed to, and they let forest debris pile up near homes in at-risk areas. All of this was known. They assumed the risk because they advanced their radical political agenda, and now people are paying a heavy price for that. We think that needs to be taken into account going forward. But the bipartisan Fix Our Forest Act will do what the governor of California would not do, and that is restore the health of our forests and make communities more resilient to wildfires.
I'm curious what you make of his critique there specifically, but also more generally the idea of, would you be willing to put conditions on to receive federal aid?
Yeah, I do support some of his comments because we know that there's been a need to clean out the forest, where especially we have a lot of dead trees that are ripe for fires as it relates to what we've seen, just over the years in terms of the fires up in our forest. But what I've said to my colleagues who are now saying that there's going to be strings attached, whether it be this administration or the last administration, you don't get a blank check. There are always strings attached. I would expect no less. And I, for one, full disclosure, I'm the only Republican on this board of supervisors. But for me, it's not about political, ideology. It's about doing what's right for my constituents. And we have to work toward addressing what lessons we've learned, what can we do differently? And that may mean looking at how we address the forest, how we address building in high fire zones. It's all on the table. But again, strings attached, that's not uncommon. That was not uncommon with the past administration. And I just don't want my constituents to get sucked up into this political garb of give and take and all that. I want to just bring it home and get it done.
Well, I want to go a little bit deeper into that, because you've also talked about this idea that it'll take bold thinking to rebuild there. What does bold thinking involve in this circumstance?
It means bureaucracy, get out of the way. We are good about adding on requirements and what we believe is necessary for homeowners. And yet in California, we know that the housing crisis here is real even before this fire. So we need to get out of the way and let people build in a way that is responsible, not compromising health and welfare, but at the same time, allow them to rebuild. And, I've made that commitment to my constituents. Rather than it taking, 6 months to get approval, we should be able to do that in 6 days. And that is something that I'm going to do. This is my last term. My term is going to be about rebuilding, and I am going to take no hostages.
You can move faster here, but if you're talking about not just rebuilding homes, but schools and grocery stores and post offices, whole communities, what is your sense of the timeline that we're really talking about here?
Well, we have the Army Corps of Engineers out here, and I talked to the colonel this morning to ask him. He was in Lahaina, and I asked him how long it took and how long is it going to take. Because while we talk about, phase 1, phase 2, my constituents want to know, how long is it going to take?
Right.
And best case scenario, 18 months to get debris removal. Worst case scenario, 18 months to get debris removal. But if we work together, we can do it in a quicker way. And my goal is to begin that process as soon as possible, especially given the fact that we know we've got rains coming, which brings a whole different set of problems as it relates to mudslides. And I want to avoid that at all costs.
All right, Supervisor Kathryn Barger, the country's watching and pulling for you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.